did a dinosaur dig up in Montana. It was led by a guy named Otis Klein. He's the founder of the Glendive Dinosaur Fossil Museum, and it's a museum up there based on biblical creation. And he found a huge ceratopsian dinosaur, which is like the Triceratops with big horns coming out of the front of the face. And they named the dinosaur Big John. It was 34 feet long. But anyways, I was on the final excavation team of getting the very last remnants of the big dude out, right? As we're out there, digging this thing out of the hard rock of, Montana Badlands, the question is always there. Is like, well, evolutionists claim this thing lived 65 million years ago. According to the Bible, we're dealing with thousands here. What gives? And so that's where the whole thing really started to take shape for me. What is remarkable about dragon legends is that they're in China, they're in Australia, they're in Africa, Europe, North America, South America, and really in one collective shout, the whole world said there's these things called dragons that we're really scared of. When you start matching them up with what we think dinosaurs look like, pretty soon you start to realize, scale for scale, these things sound an awful lot alike. The only variable is, of course, when they existed. There was a guy named Louis Jacobs. He wrote The Quest for the African Dinosaur, and he is, last time I checked, a stringent, a strong evolutionist, and he talks about the co-occurrence of man and dinosaur. If that were to be proven true, he said the theory of evolution would be demolished. That means they have misread every ounce of data that they have, because our core assumption is now shown to be flawed. When things point to an intelligent designer, they don't think that's naturalistic, so it can't be within the realms of science, so they have to remove all of that data and all those conclusions. So when they see data that points to an idea that there is a creator, they can't use it or they don't want to. And when we see data or conclusions from data that contradict the authority of Scripture, we know that our conclusions on that data are incorrect, because the Bible is our spine. It's what we stand on. It was a theological mistake. Throughout the Dark Ages, the institution of the church, really the institution of the Roman Catholic Church, did all they could to keep the Bible out of native languages. They kept it in Latin. So really you had for 1,000 years a very ignorant, not by their own fault, but an ignorant mass of people that just didn't know what the Bible said. They had this built-in belief that God had a hand of preservation over all of creation. They got that from the story of Noah. And so the church built up a belief that extinctions were impossible. If you can imagine, if you're living in the year 1750, you hear all these stories about dragons. You hear all these things about them climbing in and out of the water and disemboweling you and everything like that, but you nor your friends have never seen one. And you have this strong belief over here that God would never allow anything to go extinct. So all of a sudden, if something is not alive for you to see today, then it was never alive. And that is how and why they fade into myth. After you go through all the cave paintings, as we talked about, after you go through the archaeological evidence, after you get to the soft tissue found in Montana, what I mean by that is there was a Tyrannosaurus rex bone found in Montana that still had red blood cells, it still had soft stretchable tissue, it still had collagen protein fragments. Those cannot last 68 million years, and everyone knows that. The evolutionists know that. And it's one of the greatest discoveries in paleontological history to find these things in there, because it confirms the truth of the Bible. And so when you add the dragon mythology, you add the historical accounts of Pliny, when you add the fresh tissue inside dinosaur bone, and then all the evidence of all the archaeological findings, the only variable that doesn't add up is when evolutionists say they lived, and then you add into the point where they are disregarding data if it points to God. And to me, it is an open and shut case. It is so encouraging to know that our Bible is the only complete and perfect worldview and the only thing that makes sense of this natural world. And so we can walk around in joy and know that our faith is being confirmed throughout all of nature. And we need to pray and love the evolutionists who are really struggling with this, because we know where this ends for them. and my hope is that we can reach it. That's why we do what we do.